We are living in the most casual communication era in history. But not that long ago, speech was literally standardized.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
John F. Kennedy's voice is iconic, not just for what he said, but how he said it. Decades later, it's still powerful and inspiring. But let's be honest. If somebody were to enter a meeting today and pull up their Q4 metrics and start speaking with a Boston Brahmin accent, it would sound like a joke. We don't talk like that anymore. It would sound campy if we tried. But in losing our shared standard of speech, it came at a cost. Somewhere along the line, we started to confuse authenticity with informality, as if speaking more casually means we're being more real. And that doesn't work in business. High levels of leadership still require structure and command of language. So how do we bring back structure without compromising authenticity? Today, I want to give you 3 habits to elevate your spoken power instantly without compromising who you are. Welcome to Read the Room. I'm Mary Falkenstern. Let's begin. I want to start with a story that inspired this episode. It was a tipping point moment for me because I've heard enough people ask me about this that I said, we need to talk about it. What happened was, a few weeks ago, my friend Anna calls, and usually we talk about personal things, but today she starts the conversation and says, Mary, I need some of that speaking advice you give. Like, okay, Anna, what's going on? Now, some background on Anna. Professionally, she had recently been promoted to director at a Fortune 50 company. She's brilliant. Her career is on the rise. Personally, she grew up in a neighborhood in a city that's, you could call it rough, relevant to this story. So she shares that earlier that day, she had gone to lunch with a few colleagues, and at some point, this other woman who was in a different department joins them and hears something in Anna's voice that signals where she's from. And she goes, I didn't know you were also from fill in the blank. At this point, the two of them start talking like they're back in the neighborhood. Fast forward to later that day, she's back in the office, and somebody who had also been there comes up to her and goes, oh my gosh, we got to talk about lunch. What was that? Who's the real you? And he was saying it like it was a joke, but Anna was pretty shaken up. She goes to me, the thing that was interesting was she says, I need your help. What am I supposed to do with this switching thing? She called it switching when she has to go from one to the other. And to her, where she was from is who she really is. And she has to switch into this persona to be somebody else. I let her finish and I just was silent for a second. And I said, and the problem is? Now, I mentioned Anna had been promoted to director. She's been promoted 3 times in the past 2 years. So switching was not a problem for her. The problem was that she thought switching was a problem, that she thought that one way of speaking was authentic, the other way wasn't. That is just not true. In fact, people that are perceptive enough to be able to code switch, who have enough diversity in their background to speak to different types of people, that's not a problem. It's not just okay. It's an asset. Own it. Own every part of your range, especially if it's working. That is habit number 1. Stop the story that you're inauthentic. Reframe it as an asset. Okay, now let's go to habit number 2, articulate. When we are casually talking, we do something called co-articulation. It's when we drop sounds for efficiency. Sometimes that's okay, but if we're doing it all the time, it's the vocal equivalent of slouching. So an example is gonna, going to. I want to show you something. I want to show you something. Crispness and articulation, it conveys precision and command. Number 3 is let silence speak. This can be a game changer for people who are high performing and have worked really hard to get to where they are, and now they're at a plateau. Let silence speak. High performers often get rewarded for filling space, for being the go-to for fixing, for over-explaining to make sure everybody understands everything, for speaking up so that everybody feels comfortable and there isn't silence. But one of the highest markers of status in verbal and nonverbal communication is stillness and silence. Think of royalty. A king or a queen isn't fidgeting, they're not bouncing their leg up and down or popping a pen. There's composure. There's discretion in movement, right? Now, the other thing that royalty have is they're intimidating. You don't go to them for everything. That is a sign of somebody in power. We live in a culture where it's for many people more safe to be relatable, but you do not want to fill silence to make somebody feel uncomfortable if it's at the sake of your own personal power. So some ways to stretch this: say no and then stop speaking. Make a request and stop explaining why you need it. Give your perspective, let it land. Allow the silence to do the work. It communicates that you are somebody who has power in the room, but also that you can bring other people with you, because that space, I can promise you, in that silence, usually somebody steps up to it. So allow other people to do some of that work, and you own the power. Okay, so to bring this all together, we are living in a culture that celebrates the casual, which is great for connection, but not great for business. So flip the script. You can be authentic and articulate, warm and powerful. You are both, you are all, and so much more. So here's to expanding your range, to using your voice with command and intention, and to somebody bold enough to bring the Boston Brahmin accent back.
Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
If you found this interesting or helpful, please subscribe for more. Until next time, cheers.